Mikasa, you've been through a lot. I get it. I mean, titans, betrayal, loss. It's enough to make anyone want to lash out. But let me give you a little advice. Wrath isn't doing you any favors. Believe me, I know anger. It's powerful. It feels good in the moment, but it's not the solution. Let's take a moment to think about what wrath really does to you. You ever notice how every time you get angry, you get tunnel vision? You can't see anything except the problem in front of you, the person or titan you want to take out. You've been in that mindset a lot lately, haven't you? Charging in, blades ready, heart racing, eyes set on your target. It's intense, it's thrilling, but where does it leave you afterward? Tired, exhausted, empty. Anger takes more from you than it ever gives back. Now, I'm not saying you don't have a right to be upset. You've had more reasons than most to lose your temper. But here's the thing. Wrath leads to destruction, and not just of your enemies. It destroys you. Every time you choose wrath over peace, you lose a little more of that heart you're trying so hard to protect. And I'm not talking about your physical heart, though. Trust me, you need to take care of that too. I'm talking about your spirit, your soul. Remember when Peter tried to cut off that guy's ear when they came to arrest me? Yeah, not exactly my proudest moment for one of my disciples. But that's what happens when you act out of rage. It's messy, it's impulsive, and it usually ends up hurting someone who didn't deserve it. And you, Mikasa, have had a few Peter moments, haven't you? Times when your anger got the best of you, when maybe you went a little too far. I'm not judging, I get it. But I'm here to help you find another way. You see, there's strength in restraint. There's power in knowing you could destroy something but choosing not to. When you take that pause, that breath before you lash out, you gain control over your emotions instead of letting them control you. And when you're in control, that's when you can really change things. Imagine what it would feel like to walk into a situation and not be driven by anger. To look at your enemies and see them for what they are, flawed, broken beings, just like you. Not to excuse their actions, but to understand that acting out of wrath won't change them, won't fix what's been done. But acting out of compassion, that's where the real power lies. Here's a little secret. Love is stronger than wrath. Always has been, always will be. Love is what gives you the strength to keep going, even when everything around you is falling apart. Wrath, it burns out. It's a fire that consumes everything in its path, and eventually it'll consume you too. So next time you feel that anger rising, when you're ready to strike first and think later, remember this. You don't always have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from the flames. Mikasa, let's talk about love. And no, I don't mean the kind of love you've got for Eren, though we'll get to that later. I mean love for the people and titans around you. Yeah, I said it, titans. I know what you're thinking. How on earth am I supposed to love them? But hear me out. Love thy neighbor, right? Now, I know it's a little tricky when your neighbor happens to be 50 feet tall, trying to eat you for lunch. It's not exactly easy to see the good in something that's trying to chew through your roof. But that's the thing about love. It's not just about how easy it is. Love is most powerful when it's hard. Let's face it, if loving your enemies was simple, everyone would be doing it. But you, Mikasa, have been in the thick of it. And I know you've got a heart under all that steel. You care deeply. But love isn't just about caring for the people closest to you. It's about finding a way to not let hate consume you when you're face to face with your enemies. Remember when I said, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you? Yeah, I wasn't kidding. It's one of the hardest things to do, but it's also the most freeing. You've been carrying this weight, This hatred for titans, for people who've wronged you, for all the injustices you've seen. It's heavy, isn't it? It drags you down, and every time you pick up those blades, you're carrying that burden into battle. But what if you could let some of that go? I'm not saying you should start inviting titans over for tea, but think about what might happen if you stopped viewing this with pure hatred. That hate isn't changing anything. It's not bringing your family back. It's not fixing the world, and it's definitely not making you any happier. If anything, it's just burning a hole in you, one fight at a time. Here's what love can do. It can lift that weight off your shoulders. Love isn't just a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's a choice. It's choosing to not let the worst parts of the world turn you into something worse. Because every time you let hate take the wheel, it drives you further from who you really are. And I know you, Mikasa. You're not someone who was made for hate. You were made for so much more. Now let's be real. The Titans, yeah, they're not exactly neighbors in the borrow a cup of sugar sense. They're terrifying, and I'm not saying you shouldn't defend yourself. But there's a difference between fighting to protect and fighting out of hate. You can stand your ground without losing yourself to the rage. Picture this. Next time you're in battle, instead of seeing a monster, try to see them as they are. Victims of a broken world, just like you. They didn't choose to be that way, any more than you chose to lose the people you love. I'm not asking you to forgive them right away, but maybe, just maybe, you can start to see beyond the anger. And let's talk about your human enemies. They're a bit easier to love, but still a challenge, right? People who've betrayed you, people who've hurt you. Trust me, I've been there. You think it was easy to love the people who nailed me to a cross? Not at all. But here's the thing, holding on to that anger wouldn't have changed anything. Forgiveness isn't about letting them off the hook. It's about freeing yourself from that pain. So, next time someone wrongs you, take a breath. Think about who you want to be in that moment. You've got the power to choose love, to rise above the hate. It won't be easy, but nothing worth having ever is. And when you do it, when you choose love instead of hate, you'll find that the world and you start to feel a little lighter. Mikasa, you've always been strong, like really strong. Honestly, I'm impressed. You've got that whole slice a titan's neck with ease thing down to an art form. But here's the thing, strength isn't just about how many titans you can take down or how many battles you can win. Real strength, it's not just physical. Now don't get me wrong, physical strength has its place, especially when you're facing, well, giant human-eating monsters. But the kind of strength I'm talking about, the kind that'll really change your life, that comes from within. And trust me, it's harder to build than any muscle. I've seen you sacrifice everything for the people you care about. You're willing to throw yourself into any fight, no matter the odds, as long as it means protecting those you love. That's commendable. It really is. But here's my question. Have you ever stopped to think about why you're doing it? Because here's the thing, Mikasa. Strength without purpose can leave you empty. You're driven by the need to protect, and that's a good thing. But sometimes, I think you forget that strength can also come in softer forms. It's not always about the fight. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is choose not to fight, to stand firm in your values without picking up a blade. You know, one of my favorite stories is about a guy named Samson. Talk about strength. This guy was a beast. He could take down armies with his bare hands, literally. But what good did it do him when he let anger and vengeance cloud his judgment? He lost sight of what his strength was for, and it cost him everything. Your strength, Mikasa, is a gift. But it's not just meant for fighting. It's meant for something bigger. You've already got the physical part down. Now let's work on the inner strength. The strength that comes from knowing when to stand down, from being able to forgive, from showing compassion even when it's the last thing you want to do. Think about it this way. Every time you fight, every time you sacrifice yourself for others, you're spending a part of your soul. And if you're not careful, one day you're going to run out. That's why it's so important to remember that strength isn't just about pushing forward. It's also about knowing when to pull back. And let's not forget about sacrifice. You've given up so much for your friends, for Eren, for the people you care about. But there's a difference between sacrifice out of love and sacrifice out of fear. I see you, Mikasa. You're afraid. Afraid of losing the people you love. Afraid of what happens if you're not there to protect them. But here's a truth you need to hear. You can't control everything. You can't save everyone. And sometimes, the greatest act of strength is accepting that. You don't have to bear the weight of the world on your shoulders, no matter how strong you are. Sacrificing yourself over and over isn't the answer. Protecting others is important, but so is protecting yourself. Oh, and if you need to punch something, try a pillow first. They're way more forgiving than a titan's neck.